The housing market has taken a massive hit over the last 2 years, but as the economy slowly recovers, new home buyers are cashing in on a government tax incentive aimed at putting them into that first home. It's no secret that there's a buyer's market right now when it comes to real estate. First-time home buyers in the Ozarks are getting an even better deal thanks to a federal government tax credit worth up to $8,000.
We've seen a very significant influx in people calling that are in this situation where they're looking to purchase their home and take advantage of this wonderful program.
This tax credit will only go towards homes that were purchased after January 1st of 2009 and are purchased before December 1st of this year. With the deadline approaching, you may want to act fast if you plan on getting this incentive.
I would say that with the housing market the way it is, there isn't a realtor in town that would not agree that it's a buyer's market right now. You're going to get your best deals right now, and we've never seen in my career foreclosures this abundant.
In order to get this tax credit, you or a spouse must not have owned a residence in the last 3 years. You also must be qualified to purchase a home, and your income can't exceed $75,000 a year if you are single and $150,000 if you are married.
If you're a sincere, interested buyer that's sick of throwing money away on rent or whatever your situation is, or you're in a position just to finally make an investment, this is a great time to buy. And to get that $8,000 tax credit is so invaluable because it's equity on the table. It's free money.
Jack Farrell took advantage of this tax credit and plans on using it to improve his new home.
I'm starting to paint right now. I'm going to build a big deck out back, but just some things around the house that I wouldn't be able to do if I hadn't gotten that money.
He has rented all through college and was ready to make an investment that he hopes will pay off in the long run.
Hopefully the housing market, turns around where I'll end up coming out looking pretty good, in 5 or 6 years whenever I decide to sell the house.
Homes are great investments. Typically they rise and increase a certain percentage every single year. We've just seen a crunch in the industry in the last 3 years that it's going to take some time to recover, but we're on the right track.
The tax incentive is 10% of the home's value up to $8,000.
Traffic will be moving a bit slower around parts of Springfield over the next month. The speed limit is now 45 miles per hour on Highway 65 between James River and Battlefield. Crews could also close some lanes during the off hours as they prepare to fix the median and storm sewers. The improvements are expected to help reduce flooding and should be done by the middle of next month.
Shopping for that perfect Halloween pumpkin may not be quite as easy this season. Heavy rains, especially in the late summer this year, killed pumpkin seeds and caused crops to be less developed. While some growers are counting themselves as lucky, others lost entire crops due to a fungus and mildew caused by the heavy rain.
Coming up, we'll get in-depth about Missouri politics with Missouri State Political Science Department Head George Connor. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Ozarks News Journal. I'm Philip Pulliam. Our up-close interview today is with Dr. George Connor. Dr. Connor is the Political Science Department Head here at Missouri State University. Dr. Connor, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Philip.
Dr. Connor, can we just start out with just a broad explanation of how the Southwest Missouri economy is going right now?
The economy in Southwest Missouri, like the rest of the state, is in considerable trouble. The state tax revenues are way down. As of this morning, the September numbers are 16% off of what they were last September. That means for every 1% decline in state tax revenue is about $80 million in revenue, and that goes to provide state services, roads, police, and so on. The biggest issue here is what can the state of Missouri do? Governor Nixon and the legislature have already recommended and made certain cuts. They made certain promises, for example, holding tuition down if we didn't, we got the same money we got last year at the university if we held tuition down. But some of those deals may be off the table come January if the budget continues to go down.
So do you think that a lot of the funding in the state is going to continue to be cut, and a lot of the funding even here at the university or in the biggest parts of Southwest Missouri are going to leave people sort of crippled financially?
Well, crippled is probably too strong a word, but the bottom line is how we'll start with how it affects the university. I think the university will survive through the spring semester based on the budget, because our budget runs July to July. But I think next year the university will lose stimulus funds, will lose state funding. I think the bigger concern has to do with overall provision of state services, which will be road maintenance and repair at the state level, state programs in terms of prisons and Medicaid, those kinds of programs. But it also affects the local area. The declining state tax revenues are mirrored in declining state tax revenues for Springfield, for Greene County, for Christian County, for Nixa. So it's a trickle-down effect. The bad statewide economy is going to have an effect on the local governments as well.
Do you think as a system it's a bad idea to have your financial situation tied to sales taxes, tied to income taxes as much as it is?
It's not necessarily, it seems like a bad idea now, but the alternatives in terms of we have to have other resources. Texas, for example, has the Permian Oil Fund, where the Permian Basin oil, they drill money out and the state gets a percentage of that revenue. Part of Missouri's issue has been in how it invests money, and like every other state, we took a big hit with the economic downturn, and so our investment income is way off, and it is difficult for a state like Missouri to develop independent sources of revenue besides taxation, whether it's sales tax or income tax.
With funds dwindling, what do you think that that has in store for the next political year? What do you think Missourians have to look forward to here in Southwest Missouri?
Well, I think the state of the economy is going to have to be an issue in all the political elections. I mean, there's jockeying right now between our Congressman Blunt, and Secretary of State Robin Carnahan. They're running against each other for the Senate seat, and so I think the economy is going to be a big issue there. I think in terms of local elections, the race to replace Congressman Blunt in the 7th District, I think the economy is going to be an important factor there. And interestingly, there really are no Democrats running for that seat. It's a historical Republican seat. And so the big fight is on the Republican side. There are 5, 6, 7 candidates running on the Republican side, and each one has a slightly different take on the economy and how that will play out. So I think the economy is going to be an issue with respect to the 7th District congressional race.
You mentioned some cuts here at the university, but as far as families here in Southwest Missouri, with education constantly taking budget cuts, how does that impact families and the ability to fund programs for schools here?
The most important thing here is probably the funding formula, and again, it's a complicated issue. The Supreme Court has just upheld the current funding formula, but most funds for school at the K through 12 level come from property taxes. And so if property taxes go down or people leave, move out, then the revenues for the school district is going to go down as well. So the school districts have been relying on bond issues, and so they're going to Springfield R12 or any other school district in this area has to rely on the goodwill of the people to pass bond issues. It's hard to pass bond issues or tax increase issues when the economy is bad, when people are losing their jobs, when people are trying to make ends meet on their own. Giving schools more money is something that's going to be a little bit harder.
I know we're proposing for a second time a sales tax increase to fund the police and fire pension fund. What are some of the difficulties in trying to pass? You mentioned bond issues, but as far as sales taxes are concerned, why do you think people are so hesitant to do that?
Well, I think the pension fund, there's a lot of history there, and people are not sure that they have the whole story. So people are suspicious of that one. And I think the City Council has done a better job this time around to informing the citizens in terms of what the real problems are. But passing any sales tax in this economic environment is difficult. That means I'm going to have to pay a little bit more money for the items that I need, day to day. And although I might support the fire and police pension fund, I may make an economic choice in my own personal best interest. And so it's a tough call for the citizen. And I think the other issue that's come up more recently, at least in the news leader, has been the sunshine. Is this tax going to go away? And they consciously didn't put the sunshine provision in the proposed thing. And I think that might come back to hurt them as well.
Well, thank you, Dr. Connor. I appreciate it. That's about all the time we have for today. Dr. Connor, thank you again for being here. Ozarks News Journal will return right after this.